Welcome back to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to getting informed. Today we're diving into a relationship that's, well, famously complex and often really tense, Israel and Iran. Right now it just seems like hostility is the baseline, doesn't it? But when we looked into the sources for this deep dive, there are some surprising twists in their history. Okay, let's unpack this and get you up to speed.
What's fascinating here is just how much this relationship has, completely transformed over the decades.
Yeah.
Our goal today really is to pinpoint the key things about both nations, and especially the big shifts that led to where they are now, the state of high tension. We're trying to distill what really matters.
Absolutely. So maybe let's start with a quick snapshot of each country. Just the basics. Okay, so Israel, we're talking a parliamentary democracy, population around, what, 9.8 million? Mostly Jewish,
That's right.
and known for a really advanced military, right, mandatory service, plus top-tier intelligence like Mossad and Shin Bet.
And don't forget their tech sector. Very developed, particularly strong in cyber and defense tech.
Okay, and then there's Iran.
Iran, yes. An Islamic Republic, much larger population, maybe 88 million or so. Predominantly Shia Muslim.
Got it. And they have significant oil and gas reserves, naturally.
Huge reserves. Though, their economy has definitely been hit hard by international sanctions over the years.
And their military.
Also quite substantial. A key element there is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. They're a very powerful force.
Right, the IRGC.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's something from the sources that really jumped out at me. Before 1979, like under the Shah, Iran and Israel, they were actually kind of friendly.
It's true. Relatively friendly, yes. It's a stark contrast to today.
It really is. Here's where it gets really interesting.
This raises an important question. How did such a dramatic U-turn even happen? The absolute pivot point, no question, was the 1979 Islamic Revolution.
When Ayatollah Khomeini came to power.
Exactly. Everything changed then. The whole geopolitical dynamic flipped. Relations went from, well, functional to explicitly hostile. You started hearing direct calls for Israel's elimination. It was a fundamental shift.
Wow. And that earlier friendship, it wasn't just superficial.
No, not at all. The research suggests it was often based on shared strategic thinking. Things like mutual suspicion of certain Arab nationalist movements or Soviet influence in the region, practical concerns.
Okay, so after that 1979 revolution, what became the main drivers of the hostility? The flashpoints.
Well, you absolutely have to start with the nuclear issue that looms large.
Iran's nuclear program.
Yes. For Israel, it's seen as a profound, an existential threat. There's no other way to put it.
An existential threat. Because a nuclear Iran changes everything in the region.
Precisely. For a country with Israel's, let's say, limited strategic depth, a nuclear-armed Iran isn't just another military challenge. It completely shifts the balance of power.
We should probably mention Israel itself is widely assumed to have nuclear weapons, though it's never confirmed officially.
That's the policy of ambiguity, yes, but it's a crucial part of the context.
Okay, so nuclear tensions are number one. What else did the sources point to? Proxy conflicts.
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge element. Iran provides significant support funding, weapons, training to militant groups that are hostile to Israel.
Like Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Hezbollah is a prime example, yes. And also Hamas in Gaza. These groups are key tools in Iran's regional strategy.
And Israel obviously doesn't just sit back. The sources mentioned frequent Israeli airstrikes, particularly in Syria.
That's correct. Israel is very active in trying to prevent Iran from establishing a strong military presence, especially weapons transfers, close to its borders. So you see regular strikes in Syria aimed at Iranian targets or convoys.
So it's a very active, sometimes kinetic struggle.
Very much so. And it's not just missiles and troops. Our sources highlight that this conflict goes deep into the cyber realm, too.
Cyber warfare.
Yes, and other covert actions. Both sides are engaged. Things cyber attacks on infrastructure, espionage. And there have been reports, allegations of assassinations targeting Iranian nuclear scientists. It's a shadow war, really.
A shadow war. Okay. What about diplomacy and alliances? How does that play into it?
Well, Israel has made a big push recently to build ties with Arab nations. The Abraham Accords.
Right, with the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco.
Exactly, normalizing relations. Part of the motivation there is definitely building a regional coalition as a counterweight to Iran.
That makes sense. And Iran's approach.
Iran, conversely, often uses very strong anti-Israel rhetoric. It's a way to try and rally support across the region, particularly among populations, not just governments. They aim to position themselves as like the leader of resistance against Israel and, by extension, Western influence.
So bring us up to today, sort of 2025. where do things stand? Still very tense.
Extremely tense. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Iran is facing renewed sanctions again, partly over its nuclear program, partly over human rights issues.
Okay.
And Israel remains on extremely high alert about Iran's nuclear progress and its influence across the region. Syria, Lebanon, Gaza. Any little flare-up, rockets from Gaza, or a significant strike in Syria, it always carries that risk of escalating into something much bigger.
Right. So what does this all mean? It's quite a journey we've traced. From this surprising, almost forgotten friendship to this incredibly deep-seated, multi-layered antagonism today, nuclear fears, proxy wars, covert ops, shifting alliances. It's a lot.
It really is. And understanding these different layers, these nuances, is just crucial if you want to grasp what's happening in the Middle East more broadly. It affects everything.
So maybe final thought for our listeners to chew on.
Yeah, consider this. Beyond the direct clashes, the strikes, the cyber attacks we talked about, how might this constant high-level tension between Israel and Iran be shaping, maybe even subtly, wider global stability? Or what could it mean for the future of diplomacy in the Middle East? Something to think about.